What's up guys, my name is Ace, and it does appear we have a problem with Black Ops 7's multiplayer, and potentially a fairly big one that I wanted to shed some light on today, now that we've had some proper time for things to settle in. Now, a couple days after the game came out, there was a lot of talk about skill-based matchmaking not really feeling minimal, and definitely not as minimal as the open matchmaking in the beta build of the game. And at the time, I shared just some of my subjective experiences with SBMM, and essentially what my experience was like at the time was that when I played solo, it did seem like I was seeing more of a mix than we've been seeing in recent years of Call of Duty with the more strict SBMM system. And while I still consider my lobbies to generally be skewing in the above average direction, that would be expected to some degree when skill is minimally considered, because skill is still a factor in the matchmaking. It's not the no SBMM playlist, it's the matchmaking where skill is quote unquote minimally considered. Now, in saying that, the big thing I noticed is the moment I partied up with anybody, regardless of their skill level, it really seemed like a totally different matchmaking experience, and the lobbies were suddenly far more difficult, even if I was just playing with one other person compared to playing solo. Since that video, we've had another week or so of the game to play and for things to settle in a bit more, and I do feel my experience has been changing as time has been going on. I don't know if something has changed on the back end or if maybe just more data is being collected on my account or something, but I have been feeling like my matchmaking times are going up. My connection quality is no longer nearly as consistent as it was early on and as it was in the open matchmaking in the beta build of the game. And then on top of that, I've been noticing that more often than not, my lobbies are a lot more difficult than they were in the first few days. And that's not to say that I haven't been getting some easier lobbies here or there, although more often than not, when I get an easier lobby, that just means my teammates are really, really bad, and it's really relying on me to carry the team, and generally I can still perform quite well in those lobbies, but I'm often still losing those games by a pretty noticeable margin while feeling like I'm dominating the enemy team, which is always very interesting, but I mean, team balancing does make sense, as frustrating as that can be to have that happen on a fairly consistent basis. So now that things have settled in a little bit and I have been experiencing this, or I felt like I was experiencing this more, I wanted to do some basic tests at least, just to see if there are any trends that I can notice. Keeping in mind this isn't a really big scientific study or anything, the sample size is fairly small on this, but I was just curious to test what the time to matchmaking was like, as well as my ping value on my main account versus my bot account, which is what I use for like offline testing for my videos. And I just wanted to see if there was a notable discrepancy between these two. In my eyes, this is the best testing methodology we have right now to test the like quote unquote strength of matchmaking. It's not a perfect method of testing this. Ideally, we would have access to the API so we could see other players' stats in our lobby, we could collect all that and see how everybody stacks up against each other, but that's something we don't have access to. So instead, by looking at the amount of time it takes to matchmake, if there is a big discrepancy on the same system with all the same settings and the only variable that's changing is the account, then that can at least potentially give us a pretty solid indication of skill causing some issues here and being considered a little more heavily than the matchmaking time and or the ping. So what I did here is across both accounts, I turned crossplay on and I searched for 10 matches on each account using just the quick play TDM filter, just because TDM tends to be a very popular game mode, and therefore there should be plenty of lobbies available at any given time of the day. And also keep in mind, I did control for time of day. I tested my first 5 lobbies on my main account, then I immediately swapped over to my bot account, did all 10 lobbies there, and then I came back to my main account for the final 5. So I kind of sandwiched them all together. So they were all tested within the same rough time of day, because time of day does play a big factor when it comes to matchmaking. And then with that, I just timed how long it took me to get into a lobby, and then I marked down the ping value I was experiencing in that game as well. And here are the results that I found across 10 games on each account. As you can see, when it comes to time to matchmake, on average on my main account, it took 34 seconds to get into a lobby, whereas with my bot account, it took 28 seconds. So a little bit faster on average on the bot account, but I mean, that's not a massive discrepancy or anything. A few extra seconds to matchmake on average, that's not really a huge deal to me. More importantly though, let's have a look at the average ping values. With my main account, my average ping in those 10 matches was 42 milliseconds. That is quite a significant difference. And again, the only thing that has changed here, I controlled for all the variables, the only thing that has changed is the account that I'm playing on. It's the same system, same internet connection, same crossplay options, same time of day, and my connection experience was very noticeably worse on my main account versus my bot account across these 10 matches. And it's also interesting to point out, the best ping that I can get to a Call of Duty server is 20 milliseconds. And my bot account was at least within 5 milliseconds of that best ping value in 8 out of the 10 matches that I found. My main account, 1 out of 10 matches. And the gameplay you're seeing in the background is that 1 out of 10 matches. So while I do want to reiterate this isn't a massive, proper scientific study by any means, it does seem to suggest a trend is present with this. And it does validate the experience I've been having over the past week, where it just seems that I'm not getting the consistency of gameplay experience as well as ping that I remember getting in the open matchmaking in the beta at least. Unfortunately, in the beta, I wasn't doing any data collection when it comes to this. I just know that once they added open matchmaking, I remember praising the fact that it seemed more often than not I was getting my best possible ping experience, or like within 5 milliseconds. I was getting a roughly 20 to 25 millisecond ping more often than not, with the odd outlier here or there that would have been like in the 40s or maybe even 50s. But most of my games in the beta, from what I remember at least, were in the 20s with my ping. But with all of that in mind, as much as I hate to say it because I want this game to succeed, I care about this game and I genuinely love the gameplay experience with Black Ops 7. I think in many ways, at least on the multiplayer side, this game is getting a lot of unnecessary hate and negativity towards it. I think they've done a lot of really great things with it. But with that in mind, as I've always said, if I don't like something or if I find something that's wrong with the game, I will always call it out. And so here it is. I don't believe the matchmaking they're using in the open playlists is the same matchmaking we saw in the beta. And while the wording is vague and technically minimally considered could mean a wide variety of things, to me, this doesn't appear to be minimally considered relative to another very important matchmaking variable, and what they've always stated over the years is king, and this is ping. If skill is genuinely minimally considered, at least the way that I would describe it being minimally considered, I would expect to see very little variance in my connection experience, regardless of the account that I'm using on the same system with the same internet connection. Again, controlling for all of those variables, there should be a pretty minimal variance in the ping experience. And that's unfortunately not what I was seeing here at all with these tests. Now, do I think the matchmaking in this is as strict as it's been in recent years? No, I do think it is a little bit more open than what we've been experiencing. Like I said, I am seeing some more like outlier games where I do get like a very easy lobby, for instance, every now and then. So I do think it is an improvement over what we've had, but not by nearly as much as I'm sure many of us were hoping to see, and also not by as much as what we saw in the open matchmaking in the beta. Now, are there potentially other factors at play here, like the demographics that we're playing in the beta, or even the number of people that we're playing in the beta relative to the number of available playlists that could be accessed? So therefore, is the player pool that you can currently connect to right now when searching in the open matchmaking for one particular game mode, is that a very different looking demographic compared to what we were playing in the beta when searching for that same game mode? Maybe, who knows, with that beta, maybe we had so many people that were in matchmaking at that time that it didn't have to expand the ping range at all to find what the system deemed to be an appropriate skill match. And therefore we were getting faster matchmaking times with lower ping values on average. Or maybe they've actually adjusted some variables with the open matchmaking after the fact and rug pulled us on this. I don't know for sure. All I do know is the experience that I've been having, and I know many others have been having this as well. And I'm not just talking about random people I've been seeing comments from. I mean people that have been in the scene for a long time. I know they're highly skilled players. Some COD pros have even spoken on this as well. So it's not the types of people that have just been protected by SBMM all these years, and then suddenly now the open playlist is here. They're realizing they're not nearly as good as they thought they were. No, these are very good players, and many of them have been pointing out a similar trend here as well. So I definitely think something has changed, whether intentionally or demographically, something has changed here. Either way, I don't really care what caused the change. What I do care about is the fact that I'm not getting the experience that I was expecting to see based on the open matchmaking in the beta build of the game. Ping does not feel like it's king, and skill does not feel like it's being minimally considered. It definitely feels like skill is taking priority over ping at the moment, and that shouldn't be the case if it's quote-unquote minimally considered. So there we go. Those are my experiences, my quick tests that I did here, and this is where I want to hear from you guys in those comments down below. Now that things have had some more time to settle in, what has your experience been like with the open matchmaking in Black Ops 7's multiplayer so far? Also, what has your connection experience been like? Are you generally getting a very good and consistent ping, or have you noticed a lot of variance with this? Just let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.